New evidence is casting doubt on a decades-old Florida death row case. In 1985, Vietnam War veteran James Dailey was sentenced to death for killing 14-year-old Shelley Baggio. His housemate, Jack Piercy, was also convicted of first-degree murder in the case and received a life sentence. Dailey was scheduled to be put to death in November, but a federal judge granted a last-minute stay of execution, allowing his attorneys to file an appeal. They are pleading for a court to reconsider the case after they say Piercy confessed to committing the crime alone. The confession comes as a recent investigation by the New York Times Magazine and ProPublica is also raising concerns. With the temporary stay expiring earlier this week, Governor Ron DeSantis is now set to schedule Dailey's execution. Criminal defense attorney Ken Belkin is here to help us break down the case. Thanks very much, Ken, for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
So, James Dailey's stay of execution expired on December 30th of 2019. His defense attorneys say that Dailey's former housemate, Jack Piercy, signed a written statement that reads, quote, James Dailey had nothing to do with the murder of Shelley Baggio. I committed the crime alone. So how could that confession actually affect what happens next here?
Well, that confession is what us defense attorneys would call newly discovered evidence, and that is grounds for an appeal. So I really think Governor DeSantis should take that into account and prolong this execution. Let the appeal run its course.
But it's up to him to decide whether or not he would look at that as evidence in this case, right?
Well, yeah, the governor seems reluctant to look at it. He's been quoted as saying this case has been litigated and litigated. It's time for justice to be served. Well, I don't know about him, but justice doesn't mean having an innocent man's blood on your hands.
So Dailey has spent over 30 years on death row. Has he ever actually confessed to the murder of Shelley Baggio?
There is no direct evidence linking into the case, meaning there's no eyewitnesses, there's no confession, there's no DNA, there's no surveillance footage. There's nothing other than this informant, this jailhouse snitch that says he confessed to him.
So let's talk about that. This investigation by the New York Times and ProPublica found that Dailey's sentence was based solely on the testimony of a prolific jailhouse informant with a long criminal history of his own. His rap sheet includes fraud, grand larceny, and an accusation that he sexually assaulted a child. So give us some context here. How does the jailhouse informant system actually work?
What happens is a defendant who maybe a prosecutor is having trouble closing a case on or mounting credible evidence against will sometimes look to people that this defendant was housed with in a prison. Maybe someone he was in a cell for a period of time. Maybe someone he ate with. And they'll look to these people to see if maybe this person made an incriminating statement to them or some sort of confession, and they will look to introduce that evidence at trial.
And so how is the actual testimony, though, from someone who is a known criminal actually viewed when you consider there could be potentially other motivations, as has been alleged in this case, for that informant to go ahead and talk to the prosecutors?
Yeah, absolutely. And prosecutors know this. They anticipate that a smart defense attorney, and we're not all smart, maybe not myself even, but will ask this person on the stand, you were promised something in return for this testimony, right? Prosecutors made you a guarantee, maybe a promise of a more lenient sentence, charges being dropped, early release from prison, something like that. But prosecutors are crafty. They anticipate those questions, and they know. I've represented informants. I've represented people who were prosecuted by informants. And when you go into that meeting with the prosecutor, they say, well, hey, look, we're not making any promises, but you could really help us out, wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Deals are essentially cut.
Deals are cut.
So do the details of Dailey's case and the revelations about the informant have any broader implications for the criminal justice system?
Well, look, there's a problem with this jailhouse informant system that we have in place. It has been said that it is one of the leading causes of exoneration of death penalty cases, and it's a practice that prosecutors' offices across the country are reviewing, state legislatures are reviewing. States like Texas and Illinois, they've passed laws that curtail the process or limit it to some extent, but as of right now, it is a commonly used practice.
So, as we mentioned earlier, the stay of execution for James Dailey expired on Monday. You noted this a moment ago, but how can we expect Governor DeSantis of Florida to act on this?
Well, he seems to be weighing towards the side of allowing this man's execution to go forward. But I would implore Governor DeSantis that if he really truly wants to see justice affected, he should let the appeal process run its course and not risk having an innocent man's blood on his hands.
We're going to continue to watch it. Ken Belkin. Ken, thank you very much.
Thank you.